and welcome back to W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Today we are back with another film from IMDb's Bottom 100, aka the worst rated films, this time joined by a new special guest. Before we kick off, for any new listeners, my name's Daisy. As always, I'm joined by a podcast co-creator, editor and host, Claire. Claire, how are you doing? I've had the pleasure of seeing you in person this week, recording again for a special episode and now a mainstay episode. So
yes, this is actually my third podcast recording this week. I am on it. You can find me after this has come out. I will have been on the We Needed Roads podcast talking all about Backrooms. It's a busy time for cinema, a busy time for podcasts. It's lovely.
It's an exciting time for cinema. There's lots going on in the movies. I went to cinema last night. Nice to see it so busy. And for horror films, in the summer is a bit of a strange one.
Summerween.
Summerween. I love it. We are moving on from horror though. For this episode, we have joining us co-host of the movie podcast Looking Back from the Future, Retro Ramble. It's George McGee. Hi, George. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited to have you on. You're a new guest for us. So, welcome to the chaos. Welcome to the chaos.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the chaos.
Good. We've got to embrace it. And I think it's very, the film series we're talking about today seem to,
a lot of chaos behind the scenes.
Yeah, a lot of chaos behind the scenes, a descent into chaos throughout the series, perhaps. George, do you want to tell us a little bit about, just introduce the film that we're talking about today, why you chose to come onto the podcast to talk about it, any sort of relationship you have with the film would be lovely to hear.
Okay, so we are covering Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And this has a special place in my heart because I believe, I haven't actually verified it, but I believe it was the first film I saw at the cinema.
Amazing.
I saw it at my local picture house, which is now my local Sainsbury's. Sadly.
Sad.
Yeah, it was a really those neighborhood picture houses, beautiful Art Deco. And then I went away to uni and then I came back and I was like, oh, I wonder what's happened with the Jesmond Picture House. Oh, it's now a Sainsbury's. So yes, sad times. But yes, I think it was the same summer and it's the same production company. I saw Superman 4 and, quite topically, Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, both canon films, which I'm sure...
And that will come back up later because they had some links.
Very much so. So, yeah, I mean, so I grew up... I was, how much? I think I was 4 at the time. So yeah, it was like first cinema showing. My brother was a huge Superman fan. So it was a big thing for him. We've covered the Superman 1 and 2 on our podcast. And that was a real, we'd been holding off because it meant a lot to us. And obviously, as you know, there's a great behind the scenes. There's a lot of drama on those films. And obviously, grew up in a pre-Marvel era where we didn't have very many. We didn't have the riches of. We weren't bombarded with comic book movies. So. Whereas Charlie, my brother, my co-host, is more of a Superman fan. I'm the Batman fan. Nice. So we'll probably get into that later as well. But yes, I think it's a very interesting film, this one. I say nostalgia is a big thing and, but I too can recognize it's very rubbish. I have similar feelings. We're also big Bond fans and I have similar feelings about A View to a Kill. That was the first Bond film I saw and it's a lot of people's worst, but I just for nostalgia, I always go back to it and I have a soft spot for it, warts and all.
Nostalgia is a hell of a thing.
I
think it really does, we should give it credit. It's one of the, it evokes so many emotions for people and it allows people to have a unique experience to a piece of art that perhaps some other people wouldn't even call art. So makes everything nice and diverse.
We're mining it for our podcast. That's what we rely on. It's the power of nostalgia. It's all like looking back. Was it good or was it rose-tinted spectacles?
Well, that's really interesting. It's almost parallel to what we do on this podcast, which is looking back and seeing, like, from a more like contextual point of view, why people felt that way at the time. And it could even be that things have been like rethought about as we move on. Perhaps not this film, but maybe some other examples. Claire, did you have a relationship with the Superman series?
Not really, actually. So
No.
I saw the original Superman movie back actually when I went to university. I rented the double VHS box set from my university library.
Nice.
I thought I'd seen the second one, but upon watching it for this, I actually don't know if I ever watched it. I just think I got the double set, watched one, and returned it. Don't know what that was about. But my relationship with Superman is from TV. I grew up with the Lois and Clark Adventures on BBC One. I wasn't an avid viewer, but when it was on, I'd always leave it on. It was nice. I was a casual viewer of Smallville as well. And then I was a diehard avid viewer of the CW Arrowverse. The Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl. So actual Superman, my experience was very light. The first Superman film I ever saw actually was Superman Returns, which I remember really enjoying because I didn't have the context of the Christopher Reeves films and how good, well, some of them were. But yes, the most actual Superman is quite light. I'm not going to lie, I actually find Superman a little bit of a boring superhero. He's too good. He's too honest.
He's too powerful. So yes. He's kind of a bit like DC's Captain America. He's a goody-goody, whereas Captain America can be a bit more conflicted and different shades of grey, whereas Superman, unless you're Zack Snyder, is usually very bright and optimistic. So.
And to be completely honest, actually, that's the only Superman movie I've never got through. I've tried Man of Steel twice and I turned it off. I thought it was dire. I'm an avid Zack Snyder hater. I'm not a fan. So, that's long documented. But that's the only one I've not got through. So maybe I do secretly like. And I've got my little super duck with me.
I noticed.
Yeah. Claire, you're always on it with the props.
And so I've got a Wonder Woman mug as well. I've really tried.
Nice.
I've mentioned it, I'm sure, on the podcast before. I used to be a film studies teacher, and one of the units I taught was superhero movies. So these were both gifts from previous students. So I felt like they should be on.
I love that you've got the academic viewpoint of superhero movies to bring.
I couldn't ever show them these ones though because they complained that Iron Man was too old. So I was like, well, I'm not trying with the 70s.
Oh wow, yeah,
that just wasn't.
Man. The kids aren't all right. Interestingly, Claire, the only Superman you say you're light. If you're light, then I don't know what I am, because the only touch point I had was Man of Steel. And I think, I have film bro taste. So I think when I was like younger, I liked it at the time. I can't remember the last time I rewatched it. I've done the Justice League and I've done all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it wears on you after a little while. I think I've kind of grown out of that side of things a little bit more. I don't think I've ever watched Superman Returns. None of the shows. So, and then obviously there was the new reboot. James Gunn last year. I really absolutely loved that. Absolutely loved that. And so I guess that kind of opened a little bit of a door for me to into the character, to be like, oh, hold on, okay, so I've got this entry point now. I'm really looking forward to, because I've heard, even if it's not like, all of them are not everyone's favorite films or up in the top list or whatever, it's a really big cultural mainstay. So yeah, I can't say I was particularly like really looking forward to getting into them, but I think because I was pleasantly surprised, and I found myself really getting into the character of Superman, particularly the Clark Kent to Superman, between those, relationship with Lois Lane, etc. So I really enjoyed watching all of these for the first time. With that in mind, we are specifically talking about Superman 4 today, but I know that you can't talk about 4 without talking about the rest of the series, but I'll just do a little bit of a background on the film. So Superman 4, The Quest for Peace is number 95 on the bottom 100, which means it really is at risk, I think, with things moving and changing. It could break itself free, but for now it is in there. It's got a 3.8 average score with 58,000 votes on IMDb's platform. Out in 1987, obviously based on the DC Comics character Superman, portrayed by Christopher Reeve. This was his final appearance of the character. This is actually it's the 4th mainline installment, but I didn't realise it's the 5th installment of the Superman series at the time, which had a spin-off of Supergirl, which I believe sat between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yes, which was originally meant to be linked, and Christopher Reeve was meant to be in it. and Supergirl at one point was going to be in either Superman 3 or 4, but it all got messy with the producers and the rights, because then they eventually got sold, and then Christopher Reeve was like, I don't want to be in Supergirl, peace out, and didn't do it. And I think Supergirl was a known bomb, which surprises me that that's not on the list and this is.
Yeah, right. I think he was pretty burnt out by Superman 3, because Superman 3 just became a Richard Pryor film, a Richard Pryor vehicle, and he was sidelined. And I think the box office results shook everybody, shook the producers, and they were like, oh shit, this is nowhere near what the first two made. Yeah. Let's shelve Superman and let's try it with, let's flip the genders. Let's try Supergirl. And then that bombed, or didn't do anywhere near numbers. And then like, okay, maybe let's try and do another one. But then they were like, maybe we can offload, sublet the property to somebody else and let them deal with it.
That always works.
Exactly.
And on that note, I don't know if anyone wanted to talk a little bit about the production side of this film and what kind of happened behind the scenes that potentially all but is confirmed of why this film in particular was such a deportation for the rest of the series.
I mean, George mentioned Masters of the Universe already, so I'll let him.
Go on, George. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wary if you've been covering the other films, you've probably covered this in other episodes, but the Superman series, this series anyway, is really interesting because it shows what a different time it was in the 70s, that a couple of producers, I think it was father and son, the Solkinds, basically got the rights off Warner Brothers. I think it was for $5 million, and I think it was a 25-year deal that they could make as many Superman films, access to all the Superman characters, hence, Supergirl and Superboy. I think they did a Superboy TV series in the late 80s that ran for a couple of series. So they had the rights, but Warner Brothers were distributing it. But yeah, they were a bit burnt by Supergirl and the reception of Superman 3. So they decided to sublet it to the Cannon Group, who were in the 80s mainly like low budget, straight to video. Sort of, they did like the Death Wish movies and Chuck Norris films, but they were ambitious and wanted to be taken seriously. So they were like, yeah, we'll do Superman and we'll do the Masters of the Universe. And I think at the time they had the rights to do Spider-Man as well, which is very bizarre. And I think that year they basically were in such financial difficulty. The budget that they'd set aside for Superman 4 was slashed in half at the last minute to cover, I think they had 12 other films out that year. I've got this here. The original budget was 36 million. It was slashed to 17, which was less than a third of the budget of the original Superman, which was 55 million.
And it's crazy because they basically decided that Superman was such a big name that people wouldn't care how bad the budget was because they were selling it on the name, not the quality of the film, and that people would turn up anyway. Which, it's crazy to think that, nearly 50 years on, we're still playing the same tricks in Hollywood. No one's learned anything.
But Cannon had
this killed the franchise.
Yeah, Cannon had this habit of like selling their films before they'd even made them. It was all about selling, getting the distribution in all the different territories, and that's how they got the funding. They're like, yeah, we're making this movie and can we have some money and it's going to be great and then we'll work it out. So they were kind of selling it before they had the money available. Both this and Masters of the Universe are like, you can see the sort of the cracks and the seams, and there's nightmare stories, and you can see I've got my notes, even the opening credits in this feel cheap compared to the earlier Superman movies.
Yeah, it was funny when I watched them all pretty much like one day after the other, and at first I didn't notice the quality decline as much because each film is a significant step down from the last one. But then when I had finished 4, the next day or the next time I watched one, I watched Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, and I was like, oh my god, a filmmaker is back, oh holy lord. And so then I was just watching some clips again of Superman 4, and I was like, oh no, this is by far and large. It was a montage of all of the different fight scenes, and when you see them together like that, it is rough.
Yeah, even down to like the locations, they shot in Milton Keynes and tried to make it look like United Nations.
I love that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even like even Christopher Reeve was like, people know what the UN looks like. Yeah. This is just so silly.
Well, they begged supposedly to be able to just go and film that, and he kept saying, like, if this was the first film, Richard Donner would have had us there. He would have had doing this.
Yeah.
And I think, not to jump to the side, but Christopher Reeve, as you mentioned up top, was very burnt out from doing these films. He didn't want to be Superman anymore, but he was struggling to carve a name for himself in Hollywood outside of Superman. And so one of the reasons he agreed to come back to do this film was either to potentially direct himself or to choose a director. And he chose the theme of nuclear war and peace. And so that must be so disheartening to get to choose the idea and then they'll be like, yeah, of course you can do it, but no budget, you can't go to any of the real locations and it's going to look like trash.
Yeah, I think they also lured him because he had a passion project, a script he'd been sat on called Street Smart, which I haven't seen, but it's like
looks interesting.
Yeah, it's got like Morgan Freeman, and it's all about sort of it sounds a bit like Nightcrawler in terms of like cutthroat news and stuff like that. But sadly, that was a flop. But they were like, yeah, we'll make your passion project if you sign up to do this. And yeah, we'll give you, you can have the story rights. But yeah, it sounds like whilst he was trying to do as much as he could, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. But if they're consistently halving your budget, what can you do? And it sounds like he would try to keep everyone together and make it work.
Yeah, but I think it's an ambitious idea, the whole plot point of ridding the world of nuclear weapons. Obviously, with the whole sort of Cold War, it's very topical. But I think I read somewhere that he approached one of the original writers, Tom Mankiewicz, and saying, I'm working on this. And he's like, I'm thinking about this idea of getting rid of nuclear weapons. And Tom Mankiewicz was like, don't do it. Like, it's too moral. And it's the whole thing of like Superman, he's the most powerful being in the world, so he could do it all. Why doesn't he do it already? And it's like, just avoid those, like just put him in front of a colorful villain, which they kind of try and do in this, but there is also very much the moral message that's going on that brings up a whole bunch of plot points of he can get rid of all the nuclear weapons, but can't they make more? Which they kind of do.
The plot point for me was like, he's been told, if you meddle with human things, then you can't be Superman anymore in the second one. And that's just from having sex with Lois Lane. But getting rid of nuclear weapons, that's fine. You can still be Superman for that. It's like, what? Was this still the same franchise?
Yeah, it's very moralistic, this series, for sure. But also as different as it moves on in time and through the decades, and as different people behind the helm, it's like, okay, my morals now. There's no consistency with that. I was interested that you guys said about the Christopher Reeves saying about having the option to direct / pick the director. I know that he eventually was passed over as the director purely out of the fact that he didn't have enough experience. I was really interested in looking into the director that it did end up being, which is Sidney J. Furie, because I had never heard of Fury before, but the background, like, you know, the history of all the films that he made is really incredible, sort of like making a name for himself across different like modes of film history. So from Toronto, he's a film director, screenwriter and producer, and basically had really distinguished career over 6 different decades, but in Canadian filmmaking, in British filmmaking, and in Hollywood as well. So he's like covered loads of different genres. A few things that people may find it cool to know is that he directed the first 2 feature-length English-Canadian fiction films ever made, which I'm a bit like, how is that possible? These are in the 50s, but I suppose everything, you know, Canadian film industry wasn't, you know, as hot as Hollywood, being like relatively close compared to the rest of the global cinema world. Prominent British figure in the British New Wave, directed The Ipcress File with Michael Caine. Directed a few other films with some really famous stars. So The Appaloosa with Marlon Brando, The Naked Runner with Frank Sinatra, and the Billie Holiday biopic Lady Sings the Blues in '72 with Diana Ross, which was nominated for 5 Oscars. So quite the portfolio, so to speak. So go on, George.
I was going to say, he's quite the genre hopper as well. I mean, I only remember him being, I didn't know about the Ipcris file, but I remember him being the director of We've Got Top Gun at Home, Iron Eagle series. I remember literally going to the video shop and was like, what's that? It looks kind of similar to Top Gun. Yeah, that'll do. And just being a very pale imitation. And I think there was like about 4 Iron Eagle films in the end. I think Fury may have done the first couple. But yeah, that's all I know him for.
I just find this one of the biggest what-ifs of film history in that Wes Craven was originally hired and Reeves had him removed because he didn't gel with him. And I was just talking to my partner about it before I jumped on the recording, and he said probably amazing for the cinema that we do have, because then he really went all in on horror. He gave us so many wonderful movies. He gave us the Nightmares franchise. He gave us Scream. But what a world would it have been if he had done this? It is a complete what if.
Yeah, you're right. It could have completely changed his career. Whilst there's part of me that was like, I would love to see what a Wes Craven Superman film looks like. I mean, he would really dial up the terrifyingness of Nuclear Man's nails.
He can work with a low budget as well. So I actually think he could have potentially have saved this film in parts.
A real sliding doors situation there of what could have happened to the horror genre versus the continuation of the Superman franchise. Interestingly, in the horror connection, when I was looking at the cast, we've got Margot Kidder back as Lois Lane in this forefront, slightly sidelined in Superman 3 for the Lana love interest instead,
who's just back. Gone in this. Lana doesn't exist.
She came back to the Daily Planet and I was like, oh, Lana's not here, I guess we're just retconning that ever happened. But Margot Kidder, elsewhere in her career, known for Black Christmas, the Amityville Horror, and also she was in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So she's so I wonder if she'd have worked quite well with Wes Craven being, having that horror background. Some of the other returning cast members, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. I have to say, I was very happy to see him again. This.
Always reliable.
Yes, exactly. And also just, to know, the sad news, I think it was last year, about his quite tragic death with his wife as well. So it was quite nice to go back and see some of his work across the film franchise. We've also got Jackie Cooper as Perry White at the Daily Planet. I found out that in 1932, he was the youngest and only child to be nominated for an Oscar for the film Skippy. We've also got a few other notable faces / names. Mark McClure is back as Jimmy Olsen. You may also know him as Dave McFly in Back to the Future. He actually had cameos in Justice League and also Freaky Friday, Claire. He was one of the delivery driver called Boris. He's
the only connecting tissue with Supergirl as well, because they couldn't get Christopher Reeves. They're like, we'll get the oldest newspaper boy or photographer. He's a very youthful sort of like, they're still making him like dress like a young man. It's like, I'm sure he's in his 40s now.
Really, really milking that typecasting there. And then some new faces as well. So we've got John Cryer, who I was very surprised to see in this.
And do you know the trivia of what he went on to do?
But please go ahead.
He went on to portray Lex Luthor in the CW Supergirl show, of which I thought he did a great job. I really thoroughly enjoyed his Lex Luthor. He really played up the kind of pixie, evil, mixed kind of side to it, and utilised new technology. But so I had forgotten that was his connection, because Smallville and then the later CW shows really made a real effort where possible to give tip of hats back to the original casts of these, and where possible would always bring in previous iterations of characters to do cameos or play new characters. And so I think that is why John Cryer was invited in, because he was part of the original film series, which was just always lovely to see some of them back.
Yes, I like that they did that. That's a nice little nod. Lastly, to round out the cast, we have Sam Wanamaker, Mariel Hemingway, who's Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter, and Mark Pillow, who plays Nuclear Man. And this is his only film appearance. Are we shocked and surprised?
Well, I feel sorry for the guy, because I think he was kind of like thinking, this is my big break, I'm in a Superman movie, and then
got his nails done and was like, let's go.
Well, I read somewhere that he turned up at the royal premiere in Leicester Square in Nuclear Man costume and was like meeting Charles and Diana, and they were like, nobody told him to, apparently, but he So yeah, I bless him. I think he did have like high ambitions, thinking this is my big break, and then after the reception, he's like, "No, I'm done with Hollywood."
It was giving me, and this is funny because at the moment, currently, this will be the oldest film we've ever covered on the podcast.
Okay.
But we did record Hercules in New York, which is sat on my hard drive to be edited.
Ooh.
We just never released it. And it will
I've
come
never
out.
From the vaults. Release it from the vault.
Release it from the vault. But his performance was very much giving me Arnie and Hercules in New York vibes.
Yeah.
Just, I'm a beef guy, and I can look angry and I smash.
And badly dubbed as well, because I think I don't know if he was told when he got the role, oh, by the way, we're going to get Gene Hackman to do your voice, to dub you over, because he is just doing destroy Superman. But yes, bless him. I mean, great mullet though, great nails.
So yeah, exactly. So I think it's about time I gave a little spoiler warning for us going
just before
into.
that, you missed on the cast Jim
go on.
Broadbent giving us nothing, just stood there randomly.
I had to do it. I did it like a double take. Cause like, hang on a second.
I have to say though, it was not my favourite cameo of. Isn't that when I watched Superman 3 and I recognised a certain gentleman that I had to look up? Mr. Larry Lamb was in this Superman 3.
Oh yes, is he like a general?
He's one of the
something?
miners. He's one of the miners. Back to Superman 4. Yes, sorry. So who was it that I missed off of the cast list?
It was just Jim Broadbent, just standing giving a mute.
Is he supposed to be a French arms dealer or something?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got Lex Luthor.
This is outrageous.
We've got Lex Luthor back. We've also got like some, global arms dealers.
Yeah.
Under, he's making deals. He's like figuring out what's going on. Because ultimately, back to the plot that we touched on, Superman, the big thing about this is the fact that he is dealing with the nuclear arms race and basically wants to... The context of the time that it was basically in protest of the breakdown of the Reykjavik summit, and the US, the military build-up and skepticism towards arms control. So Reeve was really passionate about this. So the plot reflected that and ultimately dealt with Superman's decision to decide whether or not he should intervene. And so Lex Luthor sees it as an opportunity to basically work with, like you touched on, George, like wouldn't they just make more? So making other weapons and the like, after he's thrown or everyone else's nuclear weapons into the sun, which I thought, I feel like that's going to have some impact on the universe, which it did not in the way that I thought it was. I did not think, Nuclear Man is coming. But I thought that maybe it might explode the sun.
When did he have time to make that massive net? With all the nuclear weapons in. It's like, I want to see the deleted scene of him weaving away, bending steel, And
I have to say, whilst that's, one of those things that we can have a little giggle about, there are certainly lots of holes in the way that this is shot and edited and told that are a little bit more egregious. Case in point, going into space where there's gravity and humans are able to breathe was one of the
many plot holes.
One of many, 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 many plot holes. So, I think we've touched a little bit on the wider context of why this wasn't working. I'd love to hear from both of you. We can start with George. What about this, when you're watching it, is not working compared to the rest of the film? Why do you think that, personally, do you think that this... And you might actually say,
do you have the nostalgia love?
Yeah, like tell us what your actual, feeling is when you're watching this. What do you make of it?
It's I haven't actually watched this for a few years. I bought the Blu-ray box set probably about 10 years ago, and naturally you go back and watch the first two. I think I did watch Superman 3 during lockdown, sort of, you get to the bottom of the barrel. I'll go through that. I'll revisit that pain and that trauma, because obviously the terrifying robot lady that scarred an entire generation in that film. So Superman 4, it's just, I think the thing for this, for me, is just a general sort of feeling of sadness of like watching something that was, I say, you look at the Donna ones, and I kind of count the second one in that, even though it's him and Richard Lester. You look at how the scope, the cinematography, the epicness of it. And then you look at this and it is just like, it's so badly edited. Everything just feels so cheap, and the dialogue, even, you've got Gene Hackman, one of the best actors of all time, and he's doing his best to deliver some very expositional dialogue. And it's great to see him back. And he's clearly having fun, but it's just like, it really could have done with a bit more time and a lot more money. And the same with Reeve. I have a lot of love for Christopher Reeve's portrayal. I think it's such an earnest, and you can see the sort of the passion, and he really brings home that character of what Superman should be, truth, justice, and all that jazz. But yeah, even he looks a little bit tired and haggard. I think he's clearly wearing a wig in this. I think like you can see how dark and he's not as, and I'm probably being a bit mean, but he looks a bit skinny. I don't know if he's had time to bulk up like he was in the other ones.
Same way,
yeah. And yet it's the special effects. The special effects really kill this film. I say that the opening credits are cheap, but you see, I think they reused the same shot of Superman flying towards the camera about 15 times, and his suit looks green because the blue screen's a bit off, and you can see the lines and stuff. It's just, I think the other problem with this film that I realized this time around is how much it's desperate to revisit those key moments from the original Superman. So you've got him saving Lois on the subway. That's clearly the London Underground.
Aldwych station.
Is it?
It's the abandoned tube station in Aldwych.
Ah, okay. And I love that moment just where the driver just goes, ugh! And it's like, we don't explain what happened to him, but and he kind of repeats the same dialogue of, it's the safest way to travel. And then you've got the, will you come fly with me, Lois moment, which makes...
that annoyed me.
And he's doing his typical Superman gaslighting of her of, I need advice, and then I'm going to wipe your memory.
I did like that, though, a little bit, in that it was like, oh, God, how many times has he needed her? And then he has to...
How many times has he wiped her
memory?
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt derivative of the first times that was done, the flying, and it just, for me, it took away the
flying scene. Specifically.
And it just, because it all happened so quickly, it was just like, oh, okay, so we're just going... Like you say, it almost made it look like, Superman regularly goes, hey, so I'm Superman, I need some advice. and then when it's done, it's like, okay, great, done.
Reset.
Whereas before it like felt like it had so much weight to it, the flying, the revealing, the whole second film finishes on this mind wipe thing and what that then means, etc. I did have some questions over how much she remembers. Does she remember everything when he tells her
got
again?
the impression that it's leaving like almost, when you write on a notepad and then you rip it off and there's a little bit on the page underneath, an impression, because it definitely hints at that towards the end. Like she's still in love
she's
with
piecing
Superman.
it together.
So it made me reevaluate and go, okay, so what I'm now seeing in the series is that he got rid of her memory, specifically that he is Clark Kent is him, but she still seems so enamored and in love with Superman, because I thought that he'd wiped all previous memories of interaction with her, and so I was like, how can she be so in love with someone that she's never even interacted with? So I guess watching 4 helped me kind of piece together that actually no, I think you say, if you try to remove one part of something but you've got everything else around it, you kind of can't hold that realization back again.
I got the impression that within 2 he basically erases everything from when they go to the Grand Canyon, and he just erases that whole time that they spent there together. And then when they go to the Quantum of Solace, not Quantum of Solace, that's what I'm calling it, Fortress of Solitude.
The Quantum of Solace.
I've been calling it Quantum of Solace all week.
I love that.
Near enough.
Yeah, near enough. 7 syllables. And so, but the flaw in that is that she was already piecing it together just before they went there. So he did, like you said, Daisy, he should have gone further back.
Well, that's it. I mean, let's, give credit to her. She's supposed to be one of the best investigative journalists in the world. She's supposed to be a smart woman. So it's just like, oh, you. Sort of like, oh, Clark, I've completely forgotten everything. Where was I?
I think the kind of, it's fan service before fan service really existed with a lot of this film, in that I quite liked 3, controversially. I enjoyed 3. I enjoyed a new villain. I enjoyed a new love interest, because where they end with Lois in 2, well, she can't be the love interest. So I quite enjoyed 3, but a lot of people hated it. It did bad at the box office. Most of the reviews for 4 that I found were saying, well, at least it's not as bad as 3, which is why
really?
a lot of
people. I'm surprised that it's not 3 because
it's on the
bottom 100, because it feels like 4 absolutely, you know, my ratings were continuous step downs throughout. I had a lot of fun with 3, but I can see why people were like, it's not good, like in a sense of like the first film, but it is production wise a bit more, you know, it's the budget, it's the creation. So I think 4 fails more as a film, but 3 was so much more polarizing when it came to its subject
because
matter,
of Lois being gone, Superman not being
Pryor,
in it enough, which is like
Superman.
It feels like this one panics and goes, we'll give you everyone back and we'll just do exactly what you loved about the first 2. Yay!
Yeah, this one definitely feels like a course correction, and that is probably being steered by Christopher Reeve. Whereas, obviously Richard Lester's sort of background was more in comedy, and he obviously in his cut of Superman 2, it is more comedic. The Donner cut is a bit more straight-faced. Whereas he was given kind of like free reign, and Superman 3 says, right, I'm going to open with this bonkers sequence.
I mean, that was too much for me. I say I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy that bit.
Which bit are we talking about?
The opening slapstick number that goes on for like 5 minutes.
That did not feel like... That did not feel like... Because I was pretty much watching the Superman back-to-back, because I struggled to fit in like a whole film in one sitting. So I think I'd pretty much finished 2, did a few bits, came back in for 3. And I was like, hold on, this feels like a completely different... What am I watching
Have I put
here?
on the right film?
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I think the course correction, unfortunately, for this one, it just wasn't enough because of then the production side of it.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting if the production issues hadn't plagued it. Would fans have been happy with the return to form of the franchise? We'll never know.
That's it. And in an ideal world, if you look at it, if it had the original budget and they're trying to do this course correction, and it sounds like there was a lot that was cut from the original script that obviously Christopher Reeve was really passionate about. I don't know if either of you have seen any of the deleted scenes on this.
I've just read about them. I've not watched them. I've just read the.
I sat through them because I've got the Blu-ray box set.
So yeah, I watched all of these. They're currently streaming on Amazon Prime, which is where I watched them. So I didn't get the extras.
Yeah, the deleted scenes. So there was basically, I think, 45 minutes deleted from this film.
That's what I read. Yeah.
There's a whole subplot. So they actually make there's a first Nuclear Man. And it's really played for laughs. It's played by a different actor, and he's this like zombie buffoon, and it's got this weird temp track that's like a children's track. It's really jovial, and he's really dumb and stupid, but really strong. And there's this fight outside a nightclub and all this stuff, and it's just really bizarre. And yeah, they cut this whole subplot out. And then I think at one point, Canon were thinking, before the wheels really came off, they're like, well, we've got all this footage. We can make a 5th Superman with, using this footage as a starting point. And it's just like, this is awful. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll all be on YouTube, but they are painful to watch. And it is really, you can see why is like, yeah, let's get all of this, but get rid of all of this. But you can also see there's a lot of stuff that removes some of the plot holes that in this the cut that we know, because there's a lot more with Lacey, because I think in the cut, the theatrical cut, whatever we want to call it, is Nuclear Man just sees a picture and goes, I like her, I want woman, sort of type
Pretty
thing.
much.
Whereas there's a lot more of a thing of him discovering her
randomly,
and stalking
seeing a newspaper
her
and being like, right.
It felt very King Kong. She's just a pretty lady, and I want the pretty lady.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there would have been a benefit to maybe having a bit more of a whole film, but maybe wouldn't have made it a better film by having those deleted scenes in.
One of the things I did like in the deleted scenes, they've got Nuclear Man sleeping in this chamber that's basically a sunbed. And it makes sense. He's charging up.
Yes, that does make a lot of sense. One thing I did quite like, which was, a classic trope, was the double date of Superman
the shenanigans.
It's just fun. It's a bit of fun. I'm
I
always
didn't
like,
know
how's
Hannah Montana literally rips off that scene. I did not realise the Hannah Montana movie has a whole sequence where she's going through the spinny door.
She references Superman in that.
I was like, oh my god, I thought Hannah Montana was... I obviously knew they were referencing something, but didn't know it was from this.
I mean, obviously, it's the best time it's done is Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
Where he's jumping between the tables. But yeah, I suppose it's probably one of the most like comedic beats in the film. And it's something that Christopher Reeve shines at, and I think, maybe it is nostalgia and me being a bit older, but his portrayal, for me is still the best Superman, like in terms of nailing that Clark Kent persona and that charm, but that bumblingness. And then again, it's a bit like the Batman thing. There's Clark Kent, there's Superman, and then there's Kal-El. There's sort of like Clark Kent when no one else is around. So and it is fun, those bumbling bits, even though it's just like, why would you put yourself in this situation, Superman?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I think no, your ego has got a bit high to think that you're able to pull this off. But I think maybe, I think interesting you mentioned nostalgia, because it's almost like I had nostalgia for the first film in that.
Oh yeah,
because it's like I'm like, oh, I get to see how good Christopher Reeve is at switching between Clark Kent and Superman. It's nothing like the held shot on him as he transforms within his body and his demeanor. It's nothing like, we're nowhere near that level, but it gave us something that was about Superman and not Nuclear Man or all of the other bits. So as we said, like, Christopher Reeve is very reliable in this role. He's I think it's just absolutely fantastic. I really, really enjoyed watching him across this whole series. It's just a shame that, we're thinking about how this could have been better. Wes Craven, could it have been better? XYZ. I question whether it should have just even been made at all at that point.
I am just reading my notes though, and I clearly was feeling quite positive when I watched this film. I was obviously in a good mood. But I've put that I still think it's equal to a lot of the most recent DC output. And I'm thinking about Black Adam, I'm thinking about The Flash, I'm thinking about Shazam Fury of the Gods.
I'd probably rather watch this because it's not like an onslaught of like CGI like mess that I can't wrap my head around what I'm looking at least.
Yeah, I think that's it, and I'm sure we'll discuss it maybe later on. But yeah, that's what I was thinking as well in terms of the more recent DC stuff. I've seen most of them. I don't think I've seen Fury of the Gods. And whilst some of them I've probably enjoyed more than I should have done, I haven't rushed back to watch them again. I think I've seen Aquaman once, and I remember thinking that was better than I expected. But then I'm like, I'm not in a rush. Maybe it's because I don't really have much of an affinity for the character. But yeah, it's an odd one. I think maybe it is because it's like, oh well, there is some good things in this. You've got Christopher Reeve doing his best. You've got Gene Hackman. You've got Margot Kidder back, and having that, I say, we've got the band back together. There's something there, but it's just everything else that is falling apart and at the seams, very, very obviously.
So, I guess for me, with these, watching them back to back, whilst I did like seeing all of the cast come back, and I just had a lovely time watching all of these. I think they're just a really nice, it's got that like cozy kind of feeling from the first one. I had fun with the third one. I thought it was silly. I just, the evil Superman kind of thing.
I really like evil Superman. I love when anyone does evil Superman. He's my favourite part of Superman lore.
No, there's a lot to like in Superman 3, and evil Superman is definitely the highlight. And you can see Christopher Reeve is having fun with that persona.
So much. It's nice to see him get to do something different in these films, and I wonder if that's why in this one he does look so tired, because it's not hidden anywhere that he didn't want to come back for this, that he hated being typecast as Superman, but unfortunately his non-Superman career just never took off in the way. And then like Daisy, I don't know if you got around to watching it, and George, I don't know if you've seen it. You did the Superman Christopher Reeves story.
No, I need to see that. I was close to buying it on iTunes, but yeah, I'm very keen to see that.
It is wonderful. I watched it on Tuesday night after I got home from seeing the new Scary Movie, and my partner came out of the shower and was just doing something in the back of the room while I was watching it, and ended up sitting down, and the two of us just sobbed. We couldn't even talk to each other. We were just sobbing. He was so upset with me. He was like, "Why would you make me watch that?" There's lots in that about how much he wanted his serious career to take off, how
he had
much
range, all of the stuff that he did. I'd really like to watch some of his other stuff.
Yeah, because he was like Juilliard, wasn't he? Which is like one of the like best drama schools in the US. Yeah, with Robin Williams. Yeah.
And so it is so sad that he kept having to come back to get his other passion projects made, and you can see it in his performance. He's tired, and again as well, he is the face of these films. They have quote unquote ruined his career because he can't get any other roles, and then you're stuck with bumbling producers with terrible effects. He literally pulled aside John Cryer at the premiere and said, "This is going to be bad, prepare yourself." How it's just such a shame for the whole franchise and for him, and then to know then what happened to him. It's so great he went on to continue working despite his accident, but obviously never in the same way. But yeah, I just wish that he could have got the version of this that he probably deserved.
Yeah, nice farewell to the franchise would have been lovely.
Yeah, to finish on a high. And I think there is a lot of similarities with Bond, and I think he saw that in terms of when you become James Bond, it's sort of like you become known for that role. And, obviously Sean Connery spent a lot of his career trying to escape it and kept being lured back. Like, oh, come on, Sean, just one more go. And I think it was a similar thing for, I think Diamonds Are Forever. They were like, well, we'll give you money to make your passion project and more like serious actor type stuff. Yeah. And I think Reeve himself sort of likened it to that as like, well, Sean Connery, Roger Moore, they've kind of done other stuff. Why can't I? And yeah, it is really sad, but I think it's, obviously I haven't seen that documentary, but it just shows how much love there is, for that man. And, I'm always charmed when you see him. There's a great, I can't remember which talk show host it is, but I think it might be Letterman or it could be Johnny Carson, where he basically throws Marlon Brando under the bus. Just saying,
he's in the documentary. It's a wonderful clip.
Yeah,
and it's just like, he's just like, he has no respect, and it's just like, he's not passionate, and it's sort of like he's Superman in real life as well.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching it, because he was talking about how he wants to show up every day and do an amazing job and learn and be passionate and care about the art. So when he sees people phoning it in and not caring, it really gets his goat, basically. And I was just like, yes, God.
Yeah, because I think the quote was, he took the 2 million and ran.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to cry, anyone, either definitely watch the documentary, but if you just don't have time and you just want a quick cry, watch Christopher Reeve appearing at the Oscars post his accident.
Yeah,
that was the point where I was like, oh no, this documentary,
Isn't there a nice little, you mentioned it with the Smallville, and isn't there a nice little reunion with him and Margot Kidder in Smallville?
Yes, which isn't in the documentary, annoyingly. Okay.
Interesting.
I don't know if maybe they couldn't get the rights, but yeah, he did do an appearance in Smallville. He did show up as a different character in Smallville.
He's like a scientist or something, and then I think it's after like he passes, Margot Kidder's in it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we were very much in love. He was a great man." It's just like, I'm not crying in Smallville.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a lasting legacy, and especially because of his accident, became so well known. But it was so, I think that's why perhaps we don't know what would have happened had he not. But given his being that iconography of Superman, and then the accident like really shaking the world at the time, and then him being such a huge advocate for disability rights and treatment and everything after that, he left such a mark, on the culture. So it was really, I think it's a really nice addendum to watch after going through all of these films. So
and
I really recommend that.
it took 19 years after this film for another Superman film to be made, which shows both that the poison that this film and the third film did to the franchise, but then the flip side of no one could step up into Reeves' shoes.
Well, that's it.
He is still the Superman.
It was 2 years after he died that Superman Returns was released, I believe. Yeah. And that, you know, when you look at the maths of that, they would have probably started putting that into development. You know,
and there is
drawing, you know, and they probably felt like now was the time that. Yeah. You know,
there was the failed Nicolas Cage film.
I was going to say,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. There's actually there's a great book that I have. I think it's called Superman versus Hollywood, and it's all about and it follows it all the way from like the George Reeves films in the 50s. Obviously, the main chunk of the Soul-Kind Christopher Reeves saga, but then it obviously goes into Superman Lives. Was it Tim Burton, Nicolas Cage, Kevin Smith, and that's a story itself. And there's a great documentary on that. But yeah, there's some really, because there was so much behind the scenes drama. It's a fascinating book. If you are a fan of the Superman series, do check it out. I think I discovered it via the Film Stories podcast. I think Simon Brew sort of recommended it, but it is a great read. He's a star.
But yeah, I think that was my main thing. Like, it's just such a shame that the budget cuts happened, because I think this is one of the clearest cut films on the list. The point of the podcast is, why was this film rated so badly and what happened? And this one is it's so blatantly obvious and clear. It's that they halved the budget before they started.
Yeah, you know, that's your work's cut out for you if that's how you're going into it, isn't it? It's just it feels a bit of a shame. You know, they had a mountain to climb to even get this into a, you know, a film, to get it out the door. So I can see with all of the context, because when I was watching it, I was like, I still don't really understand why 4 is on here and not 3, given how my experience of watching them public reception. Yeah. But, you know, when you look at all of this and you see the effects and, you know, everything like that, it's it starts to all add up. So
the one person I haven't mentioned that's, you know, getting the band back together again, and I'm not sure how present he was in the room, but John Williams's music is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this.
Oh, what a score!
Yeah, I keep singing it around the house. It's so funny.
But you've got this amazing score to sort of bring it up a notch. And I think it's like John Williams's music performed by some other orchestra.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's pretty much in every film apart from the first one. It's an adaptation of, or a remix of, or performed by. I think he only did the first one, but what a stunning piece of music. And like you say, it does so much heavy lifting, because even if you're not enjoying the film and it looks a bit silly, that score kicks in and you're just like, Superman, go.
I mean, you know, it's a testament. They're still sort of referencing it in the James Gunn films. I think it was referenced in Justice League. So it's like, it's hard to get away from, because it is such an iconic score.
Yeah. On that note, I was wondering whether we should go on to the reviews and reception. I mean, we pretty much touched on it a lot anyway, in terms of it receiving negative reviews. Obviously, we've mentioned the poor special effects that have been mentioned. Claire, you mentioned the boring action sequence, or just the crap action sequences, I should say. The critics cited them as boring, though.
It's giving Batman the 1960s series. There's almost like a slap fight in the space at one point.
There's a bit where Nuclear Man goes at him with his nails, and it's literally like a cat fight. And Christopher Reeves like batting him off, like no,
scratches,
go away.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, because I listened to the Richard Donner interview that our pals at Spotlight did, and he talks about how one of the influences was how much he didn't want it to be like the 1960s Batman films, and it's like, by the end it was.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't talked about the epic fight in this, that there's, and you can see it, like, you can imagine it on paper. It's like he goes to this volcano and the volcano's erupting. They're battling on the Great Wall of China, and you're like, this is going to be epic. And then you're like, but here's the budget.
Yeah.
Here's what we can afford to do.
when we were watching the few clips this morning, just to refresh it in my mind, we were like, is that a model? Is that a picture? Is that a set?
Oh, yeah.
Is it just a figment of our imagination that we're told to summon up just so that we can get through to the next scene?
Well, the Richard Donner cut uses test footage. I couldn't see most of the test footage because the quality of the random test footage in the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 is of a higher quality of production than the real released Superman 4.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we Charlie and I talked about when we covered the first two on our podcast, and there clearly is a lot of miniatures work in those first two movies. I think it's Derek Meddings who did a lot of stuff on the Bond films and Thunderbirds and stuff, and it's brilliant. You can tell obviously in this HD age that it is miniatures, but there's that attention to detail. Whereas in this, it looks like someone's sort of high school project for a volcano.
Last thing, just before we jump on to reviews, similarly to Mortal Kombat Annihilation, John Cryer has said that this version of the film is not the finished version, that they quite literally just ran out of money and didn't finish it and just released it as is, which seems to be a common theme on the list.
It seems to be like a VIP entrance to the bottom 100, basically. If you can't finish your film, then you get like a special like early bird, you can go straight on there.
Well, it happened on Masters of the Universe. They got to filming the final battle between He-Man and Skeletor, and they literally ran out of money and had to like shut the studio, the set down. And they went back to Mattel. Canon's like, oh, well, we kind of haven't finished it. And Canon were like, we've already given you all this money. Mattel did. And Mattel gave them some extra money, and they're like, we'll basically give you one more day. So they filmed this epic sword fight, which is filmed pretty much in the dark to save money in one day. So it's just like, because it's
you think you'd prioritize that
finish the film?
They seemed like they were just very hopeful little entrepreneurs who just kept thinking it will work out. And lo and behold, guys, it didn't work out. The company folded only a couple of years after this film came out.
There you go. I'm surprised it was a couple of years.
Ironic that, like you mentioned up top, George, one of the reasons we're doing this episode now is in correlation to the new Supergirl movie, the sequel to last year's Superman reboot. And so we thought this would be a nice tie-in with that new Supergirl movie. But how funny that it is coming out within the same month of Masters of the Universe, when Masters of the Universe destroyed the original franchise. How odd.
And it's almost like Hollywood's ran out of ideas.
Exactly. It's like we're almost living.
Though I'm looking forward to both those films, I must say.
Yes. I wasn't going to go see Masters of the Universe. I actually returned my press tickets to go and see Backrooms instead. But now, which I loved. But now I've been told by everyone how good Masters is, so I'm off to see that on Monday.
It's got good reviews.
It's getting really good reviews. Box office isn't hitting because there's just too much out right now.
There's lots out.
Yeah.
But I want to go and show it my support because everyone that I know that has seen it has loved it.
Surprised me. Okay. All right. So speaking of box office,
and people not loving things.
Sorry?
And people not loving things.
You'll be surprised. It was the 8th highest grossing film in the UK for the year.
Wow.
It had a gross of £3.5 million, equivalent of $5.5 million. The movie grossed $15.6 million in the US and Canada, $14.6 million internationally. So it had a worldwide box office gross of around sort of $30 to $35 million. So technically it was a minor financial success, but obviously they decided to end the series following the mixed to negative reception, not just this film, but the last film as well. And Reeve did regret his decision to be involved in the film, saying that Superman 4 was a catastrophe from start to finish, and that failure was a huge blow to his career. Plans were made to make Superman 5, but they never came to fruition. And then obviously with Reeves' 1995 paralysis, made any further development of sequels involving him, at least in that starring role, kaput. So no further Superman films were released until Superman Returns in 2006. The film was voted number 40 on a list of the 50 worst ever by readers of Empire magazine, and it was nominated for 2 Razzie Awards, Claire. So it would have been on that road to Razzies. Yeah, only 2. Worst supporting actress for Mariel Hemingway, who played Lacey, lost to Daryl Hannah for Wall Street, and the worst visual effects which it actually
Well,
lost. Yeah, it lost to Jaws: The Revenge, which is also on our bottom 100.
Okay. I was going to say, how could this lose? But we've not seen that one yet.
No.
Oh no, that I haven't watched that in years, but that is widely seen
Is it basically like you can get those little grabbers from the aquarium with the shark? That's all what I'm imagining. It's just he's like snapping away, coming in on a long handle.
Actually, listening to your Jaws episode this morning, my partner went to see Jaws last weekend for the first time ever at the IMAX. So he went to the IMAX and loved it. And they had a special talk with marine biologists and stuff. So he was then loving your podcast because he was like, I didn't know that, and then he was like, I didn't know that, and he was having a great time.
Nice.
So Rotten Tomatoes, the critics and audience score is it's exactly the same. I thought it was just similar, but it's 16% across the board. Consensus is that the Superman series bottoms with the quest for peace. The action is boring, special effects look cheaper, and none of the actors appear interested in where the plot is going. It has a 24 on Metacritic. New York Times actually gave it 60 and said, threadbare as it's beginning to look, the Superman series hasn't lost its raison d'etre. There's life in the old boy yet. So nice, positive view of the film. However, Los Angeles Times gave it a 10 out of 100. Sequels to big budget popular hits usually end up super slick, shallow and inflated, but this one isn't even super slick. It's shallow and deflated. The overall effect is of a story atomized and dying before our eyes, collapsing into smashed pulp, ground down into big budget kryptonite ash. They were so proud of themselves for that one.
Did they get paid by the word?
It has a 1.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd with only 28 fans. That's crazy. Wow. Only 28 people have liked it on Letterboxd. And I do have some reviews. David Sims gave it a 1.5 and said, why have subsequent Superman films not addressed his power to rebuild walls by looking at them? That's a Great Wall of China scene there. Adam Bolt, 2.5 stars. First movie to ever forget to have a VFX budget. But we do have some positive ones as well. Super Duper gave it 4 stars and said within their review, I think Christopher Reeves' story input about a boy writing to Superman, asking for help with the nuclear crisis feels sincere and believable and very Superman. Which I have to agree on. Travis Little, 2.5 stars. Part of their review said, it may not be the train wreck suggested by its reputation, but Superman 4 is clearly not a good film. It is watchable, however, and though it may end Warner Brothers' initial Superman saga on a sour note, the superhero film offers a minor amount of engaging moments. And I think that's probably closest to how I experienced it, after watching the whole series. So
I just had one which encapsulates my opinion, which was from Joel, who watched this last July, I guess in preparation for the new James Gunn movie. Gave it 2 stars. Bad movie, but not offensively so. Dumb as balls, but I had some fun with it, which is exactly how I felt. And I think in my own personal review, it was, I wish every movie on the bottom 100 was as pleasant to watch. Because it's
That's true.
But it's not offensive, it's not awful, it's just, oh, what a shame.
Lackluster.
It's like their heart's in the right place. It's just
the wallet isn't.
There just needs to be money there.
Which there's worse things that can happen in cinema, as we have come across this podcast. So with that in mind, I'd love to hear what everyone's final thoughts and ratings are. We do stars out of 5, but half stars are allowed. So George, would you like to go first?
I think it's for me it's probably a 2 out of 5, and that might be being generous, but I say for me, I'm coming to it with a lot of emotional baggage and nostalgia. But I think it's a course correction of terms. I'd still, as we've touched on, I just love Christopher Reeve's performance. It's great to have Gene Hackman back, Margot Kidder. So there's enough in this for me to sort of revisit occasionally, rather than going, oh, that's terrible, I can't ever watch that again. Though it will be probably quite some time before I revisit it again. I need to go back to Superman 3 because it's been a few years since that. So I'd say 2 out of 5 from me.
Claire?
I went really positive. I gave this 3 out of 5. I just didn't have a bad time. And I think it definitely is also a thing of, I was really enjoying just immersing myself in the Superman world. So even though this is clearly the lowest entry, I still enjoyed watching it and had fun.
I agree.
I found all of them a little bit silly and all of them a little bit goofy at times. And also, I have just watched too many bad movies. The movie I watched last night was one of the worst things I've seen in a really long time, and this outshines it. It's Repo the Genetic Opera. I chose to watch it because it stars the late Anthony Stewart Head, who at time of recording passed away yesterday, Giles from Buffy. It's been on my watch list for a really long time. It's a dark gothic musical. It was nominated, I believe, for a number of Razzies. Holy shit, it was appallingly bad. And I just, in comparison, this film is fine.
That's it. Our palettes have changed because we've tasted true garbage.
You ladies must be toughened up some of the stuff that you've had to watch, whereas Charlie and I have the pleasure of picking, what should we review this month?
But it is lovely when we get a film like this where we can really delve back and watch good ones and bad ones. It's always awkward when we just do a random film that has no ties to anything, and it's like, well, that was just a bit naff.
And I think, but maybe that actually has helped me. I also would give it 3 stars. It's helped me kind of, because it's the end of a whole experience that I've gone on. I think perhaps if I was to rewatch it again on its own, it might go down. But, I mean, my ratings, as I'm sure Tristan was watching on my Letterboxd, Claire, as I watched the Superman films, was going down from like 4.5 stars, half a star step down every single time.
Exactly the same until then I redid the Donna cut and it went right back up.
Exactly. So I think if you're going to do that whole thing, is a very, very clear step down in quality each time. For me, that wasn't a huge jump because I just enjoyed being in this universe. I loved watching Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder back for this one. I think there was enough of the Superman elements that got pulled through from the first one. So whilst everything around it crumbled, the things that made me enjoy the first and second one so much were still there for me to enjoy as part of that whole watch through. So that will be 3 stars for me. And I assume then, Claire, given we've both given it 3 stars, we don't think it deserves to be on the bottom 100.
No, not at all. Like I say, I've seen so many worse films. This was, for a podcast film, a real pleasure to watch, and I enjoyed watching it when looking at it in those terms. I don't think it deserves to be here. I understand why it is because of the cultural phenomenon and just how disappointed people must have been, and also the quality of the effects. And I think I'm giving it a little bit of a pass there because basically anything from before 2000, I'm like, well, of course the effects are going to be bad, but I'm like, I really should watch it like on a double screen with the first one so that I can, because I think I'm giving it too much of a pass there. But I think it's placed on the list. It's in the 90s. It's going to be off the list, I would say, in the next year based on other ones that sit in the 90s. So I don't think it should be there, but I do get it.
I can understand why it would be close and dancing around the bottom of the bottom, but I mean, the amount of awful stuff we've seen, it doesn't. And the thing is as well, this film would have predated IMDb, so these are people watching it, reviewing it since IMDb's come in, so we can't even rely on initial reactions from people. So it's an interesting exercise to go, oh no, people do still see this as pretty bad, but how much of that is influenced by other people being like, this is the worst Superman? It can never really have like a clear unbiased view. That being said, I think I understand in comparison why people would then feel that strongly, but if I'm looking at it as its own thing, I'm seeing it as part of a bigger whole that I've really enjoyed, and it didn't feel like it pulled too far away from that whole experience. So what about you, George? You've got a little bit more of a lower score. So
well, I was going to say, I think it's unfair to put it in like the top 100 films ever made. Maybe it's in the list if you're just narrowing it down to superhero films or comic book films.
Right.
But as we've talked about already, there's been a lot of modern stuff, DC stuff in particular, that's been terrible. And it's sort of like, and I think people with all these like worst film evers, they're not that bad. There's parts that, some of them are so bad they're good. You look at stuff like The Room and things like that. There's stuff that still brings you back to watch it, and whether it is just to laugh at, but it does feel that this film is a bit of a punching bag. I mean, there's this, but then if you look at the other end of the spectrum for like a very expensive misfire, you look at Batman and Robin, which was, they had all the budget in the world. You had all the budget in the world. I mean, I had I think that was on the list. You guys put up for my choices. Like, which one do I go for?
That's my nostalgia, because I had a really special time going to see that in the cinema. So that one lives forever in a soft spot in my heart. That's going to be a hard one for me to evaluate.
Well, I actually went to the premiere of that as a 14-year-old. My dad was in like snacks at the time, and he managed to was sponsoring it or something, so managed to get a premiere to that. So I came out like 14-year-olds like, this was that was amazing, like, and then went and saw it with my mates and was like, no, it wasn't really, was it? I was probably enveloped in the whole premiere experience of seeing the stars and being on the red carpet and stuff. So
and so one of the things we do ask, put you on the spot, if you don't feel like this one should be on the list, is there anything that you would replace it with? Is there a bad movie that you feel like does deserve to be in the bottom 100 movies ever made?
I mean, there are so many bad films out there. I mean, I think I feel like almost like I would swap if we just narrow it down to like the DC stuff. I think you could easily take Black Adam or Joss Whedon's Justice League. I think is really bad. Like I struggle to. I've watched the Zack Snyder 4-hour epic that would never be released in a cinema, but it is an improvement, a massive improvement. So yeah, I would probably swap out Justice League for this if I'm going to be cruel.
Love it. We do allow a little bit of cruelty. We try and be positive, but we have to get a bit in.
Just to be balanced,
because that film
we need to have the evil Superman side of the podcast.
Oh yeah, that's me with the stubble and the drinking problem.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Which, by the way, Superman's first evil deed is to restructure the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
My favourite thing, genuinely, made me giggle so much.
And the guy that's making all the replicas, that's a great sight gag.
He's just mischievous, and that's
what he's not evil. Yeah, he's just having fun. He's let it loose.
I think there was actually an early draft of Superman 4 where Nuclear Man was going to be an evil clone, and it was more in line with the comic book character Bizarro, which is like an evil clone Superman. But then they kind of realized, well, one, there's the cost of doing this, of having two Chris Reeves, and two, we've kind of already done this in the last film.
Yeah. Well, two thoughts on that before we wrap up the episode. Wasn't there like a Superboy kind of evil thing, Brightburn? I never watched.
Oh yes.
So nothing to do with the Superman franchise.
It wasn't actually to do with it. Okay.
It's just basically like
a what if.
A what if, in the same way that The Boys is what if we made.
Well, that was my other
the most powerful person in the world.
That was my other point. Is that Superman 3, the evil Superman? I was instantly like, oh, it's Homelander, but actually not. Because Homelander's actually awful.
Brightburn is basically what if the people that adopted Clark Kent as a child, what if he used his powers for bad? I remember enjoying it. It wasn't an all-timer, but I had fun in the cinema.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's so much stuff that is influenced by these works. So it was a pleasure to watch them all. Yeah. So George, would you like to tell us the listeners where we can find you and your podcast and anything else that you'd like to sort of share or celebrate?
Yeah, sure. So I co-host the podcast Retro Ramble with my brother Charlie, and the sort of theme of our podcast is we revisit the films of our youth. So mainly sort of films from 80s and 90s, mainly sort of blockbuster or culty type stuff. There's a lot of action stuff there because we're two red-blooded blokes, ruddy blokes. So yes, I think we don't have that many female listeners. In all honesty, I mean, my mum is probably one of them. No, she hasn't listened. But yeah, no, it's a great way for my brother and I just to keep in contact with each other, and we both sort of it's a lot of fun. Like we're kind of doing fun here to sort of to like. There's some films that we've watched regularly and it's like, oh yeah, this film's great and that's why we watch it regularly. And there's some films like we just did this month, we did Young Guns 1 and 2. And I don't think either of us have watched them in about 20 years. So it's just like, it's not as good as I remember. But again, it's like looking at like what works. And it's really interesting with a lot of stuff. It's like, some of the bigger IP like, Aliens, obviously that's still relevant, still out there, the, Alien TV show, Alien Earth. And so it's still resonating with people, and it's interesting to see and, you look at like Karate Kid, and then suddenly we've got Cobra Kai, there's a lot of legacy stuff that we're going through. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, we're on all podcast platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky. So yes, please check us out. And if you like what you hear, subscribe, tell a friend, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do check out the podcast Retro Ramble. Okay, so for W Rated, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at W Rated Pod, and on Letterboxd at W Rated. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Superman the character, Superman the series, and specifically Superman 4. Claire, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me pretty much across all social media at Clare Ellen Hope, Claire with no I. At time of release, I will be in a field at the State Fair Festival, having fun. So feel free to have a look at my Instagram stories, which will hopefully be full of Counting Crows and Alanis Morissette. Will Counting Crows do the Shrek 2 soundtrack song?
I bloody hope so.
They better.
Just so that you can send a video to me. If you want to get, thank you. If you want to get in, if it's a Shrek song, it's like almost like I don't have to tell anyone. They will just send it to me.
Oh, did we ever publish our picture? We went to a Shrek Christmas rave together.
I was just about to say, are you girls aware of the Shrek rave phenomenon? Which I've just like, it came up on my Instagram. It's like, how is this a thing?
I went to Comic Con in October, and there was a Shrek cover band there who were amazing. So then myself, my partner Daisy, and a friend of Daisy's for Christmas went to the Shrek the Halls. Wasn't quite a rave, but it was definitely a big fun night in kind of like a hall, basically, like a beer hall.
Yeah, it was like a festival hall kind of thing.
I dressed up as Gingy, the gingerbread man,
Nice.
and it was a wonderful night.
It was great.
Amazing.
It was great. I really wish I'd got in early to get my Shrek ears made out of glow sticks, but I was late to the party with that. So if you have any thoughts on the podcast or any Shrek related phenomena, you can reach me at Daisy Vic Edwards on Twitter and Daisy Victoria Edwards on Instagram. But we'd just like to say a huge thank you, George, for joining us. It's been a lovely time having you talk all things Superman DC. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode. If you do enjoy listening to our podcast, please do give us a follow or subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, a rating and review. And we hope you join us for the next episode where we take on our next worst rated film and also our bonus top 3 films with George on the best and our favourite DC related films. I'll see you then.
Perfect.
Dun, 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 dun.